Hello everyone and welcome back to another wicked gameplay episode. Today we're in X-Plane and we're looking at a pretty cool aircraft from the guys over at vFlyteAir. This is the Cirrus SR20 and this is their latest aircraft that they've developed. They have also developed a few different aircraft in the past, including the Grumman Tiger and Traveller, which was two of their first aircraft. The Piper Arrow, which a lot of people really liked as well. Orion Navion, and then there's this particular aircraft. So this is pretty cool and well worth a look if you are interested in the Cirrus aircraft and general aviation aircraft. So you can see, as you can see here, this is really nice. They always do a great job, these guys, and really helpful in the community. If you jump over to the X-Plane forums, you can get support there for any issues you might have or any questions about the aircraft. But I think it is a pretty good aircraft and I'm really liking it so far. What I should point out though, that Walker from vFlyteAir did actually contact me and send me this to feature on the channel. So big thanks to those guys for sending this over. And we're going to be having a look at this. One of the key features of this and why it is so, I guess, such a big thing in X-Plane is that it does come with a modelled G1000, and this is actually based on the Cirrus Perspective glass system that they have in the SR20. So they've kind of developed that and done some custom programming to make all that work, at least as best as they could with the limitations in X-Plane. I think they've done a pretty good job at doing that. A pretty challenging task, I think. And as you've looked around in X-Plane, you'll see that nobody really does a good G1000, and this is one of the first ones. And previous ones that I've actually had on the channel have been like a built-in GPS that's part of X-Plane, you know, just featured as the navigation system, not really a G1000, so to speak. So it's pretty good. Obviously it's not fully featured as a G1000 because that would require a lot of work, and I don't even know if that's possible with the limitations in X-Plane. Another cool thing about this aircraft, and the first time at least that I've seen it, I haven't seen any other Cirrus aircraft actually. So Cirrus is well known for their CAPS system. CAPS is the Cirrus airframe parachute system, and it can be deployed if the aircraft becomes out of control. Essentially what it is a handle on the roof. You pull that handle and it will deploy a parachute, allowing you to fall safely to the ground. And when these parachutes have been deployed, there have been no fatalities, at least in those cases that I'm aware of, based on the information I looked at. There is some limitations as to when you can deploy. You need to be, at least in this particular aircraft, 135 knots indicated airspeed. That is kind of the deployment speed. So if you stalled, you'd want to be trying to do at least at maximum that speed, and then you can deploy it. You also need to be at least 400 feet off the ground because you will lose some altitude once you deploy it. You need that buffer. So if you're coming in for a landing and you're fairly low to the ground and you stall, this is probably not going to help you. It also can be deployed in a spin, providing you have at least 900 feet of altitude to allow the aircraft to drop down. And then after that, you are most likely going to walk away, even if you have a bruised ego and maybe a few bumps and bruises. But if you have a look at any deployments, they're pretty cool in the way they float down. So that's pretty awesome too. So what I should point out is go and check out the guys at vFlyteAir. I'm going to have a link in the description. Go and check out their aircraft and say hello. And big thanks to you guys over there at vFlyteAir. Another feature of the aircraft is the working oxygen system, which is pretty cool. If you go above 12,500 feet, or roughly there above, or there at, you will get hypoxia in a normal GA aircraft unless you have some sort of oxygen system. So this allows you to turn the oxygen on, and if you've got that hypoxia enabled in your settings, you'll start to see the screen dimming as you start to be affected by hypoxia, the reduction of oxygen in your blood, and you'll start to black out. But if you turn on that system, you get about half an hour of air and you'll be able to continue your flight and recover without becoming affected by hypoxia, which that is also a nice addition. You get a little light, indication light. So we're going to be checking all that out on our flight. So we're going to be doing the tutorial flight in this episode, and this is from Palm Springs International to San Diego Montgomery Field, and that's basically the flight we're going to do. So let's have a quick look at the model here. You can see here, very, very nicely done. It's really good. I'm really happy with the modeling. It looks great. A lot of work has gone into this, and I believe it was modeled off some CAD drawings or something, so it should be very, very accurate. And that, you know, every aircraft that vFlyteAir release is getting better and better. So I've left with their standard livery here with vFlyteAir, their branding, but they do have a few other liveries as well. Let's talk about this little settings button here. So it's got some basic settings here. You've got the pilot door. You can see we've got some sounds there, so that opens the pilot door. We've got the passenger door as well. Let's pop around to the cargo door. Should be on this side. Here we go. So let's zoom in here. We'll open this cargo door. You can see they've got some baggage in there, which is nice. And we can add and remove a co-pilot. So I'm just going to roll around back over to this side. And got our pilot there. We can add a co-pilot here. So that's this guy. And we'll just roll around here. So you can fly with your buddy if you're feeling a bit lonely. So there they go. I'm wondering if these are modeled off the guys from vFlyteAir. So I'd really like to know about that, guys from vFlyteAir. Let me know, are these guys actually modeled from you? I know there's 3 guys over there. There's Igor, I think his name is, Walker. And Mario Donick actually has done the work on the avionics. He's joined for this particular aircraft. The last button here available is the remove the ground elements. So that's your chocks down here and also your pitot tubes. And I think that is it. So we can actually just take them off. If we look there, you can see that they'll turn on and off. So that's just pretty basic stuff, what you might expect from most of these. So let's shut all these doors and let's jump in and make our way to our destination. Okay, so we're inside the aircraft here. We're going to have a little look around. As you can see, it's very well done. It's really nicely modeled here. You can see some nice kind of leather seating. We've got the cap system here, which you can see it's highlighting. Well, my cursor is actually changing there. We have some lights here. I think these actually work, although I haven't really looked at them. They don't kind of really look like they work, but apparently they do. We have our visors here, really nice touch. We've got the back of the aircraft over here. You can see there, and we just roll down the back here. We can see we've got our baggage compartment, and no sign of a cap system here, but you get the idea. This is the interior. So we also have, we've got a fire extinguisher. We have, I didn't actually set my shortcut keys, but there is actually, whenever I zoom in there, I get, that's the window. We do have fuses. Most of them can be disabled. You can see that. You know, you can disable these if that's important to you. I don't really ever do that, but in some cases you may want to actually do that. We have our ELT here, is it? Yep. Not really sure what that is. I've never actually seen that before. What is that? Static. That's not actually modeled. It looks like the alternate static port selector, if that was blocked. That was affecting your airspeed indication. So we have our backup gauges here for our altitude and airspeed, and oh god, I've forgotten this attitude indicator. We have our start key, and we have a range of buttons up here, so I should have done a shortcut key here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn this battery on. That's going to power up nothing. That just turns our batteries on. And let's get some navigation going here. Nav lights on, and that'll turn our navigation lights on outside. Also let everyone know that we are preparing to start the aircraft. Let's check our fuel. You can actually turn the fuel off like this, changing the different tanks. You can see we've got quite a bit of fuel here. We've got a fuel pump. We've got our mixture lever here and our power lever. We're going to leave that on idle. Here's our flap setting oxygen meter here, or oxygen pump. This is what I was talking about previously, where we can turn the oxygen on. We have our radio stack here, autopilot with all your standard stuff, your heading, navigation, approach, engage button, or the autopilot engage. We have our level button, which I believe is a Cirrus button. That sounds like a serious button, no, but it's a level button. So if you were in IMC and you were confused about the attitude of the aircraft, you can press this and it will level the aircraft. At least that's what I understand. Our flight director, yaw damper, our up and down trimming, indicated airspeed if we want to set that as our climb speed, and altitude setting to set that. Vertical speed, and this button I don't believe does anything. This is for our flight planning. We actually can type a lot of this in, and this is a part of the customization, which they've done a pretty good job on. So let's actually turn on the avionics here, and you can see it's got a sort of boot up screen, which is kind of cool. I'll jump back down to my buttons, see what I actually mapped out here. Okay, so we can actually see we've got our brightness controller here, which is pretty cool. I like it bright. Aircon is on this side. I don't know if that's modeled. I mean, this does actually work, but whether it doesn't actually do anything, because I'm still quite cool here in Sydney, where I'm physically located. That's about wraps that up. We also have our trim markings here. You can see we're kind of at takeoff trim. So if I was to do this, you can see that is how that kind of works. We've got our engine parameters here. You can then flick on this view with further engine parameters, which is pretty cool. That's another option. I mean, there's a whole bunch of options on here. We're not going to be going through all these today because it will just take too long. I just want to show you the main things, and some of these I haven't even used yet. So you can feature traffic, I believe. No. Checklist, you can go through this checklist. Press next to go through this, and that'll help you get underway. So make sure you don't forget anything, as I normally do. I'm not really sure what that button does. We've got the navigation and all your comms buttons, a volume control. It doesn't really seem to make any difference to the volume, so I'd have to go back and see what that's all about. We'll talk about this backup display in a second, but we have our primary flight display here, so we can actually have an inset screen. So we can turn this on. We can have our traffic, different settings here that you want to possibly have in there. I personally don't really like that inset screen. That's just my personal preference. We've got our indicated airspeed, V speeds, all your standard indications, your navigation here, your flight director, your power settings, and all the stuff that you need. Your barometric settings with your brakes are on, your oil pressure, any warnings, and obviously your altitude tapes here and speed tape here. This also has this button, display backup, and what this does is if this primary flight display was to fail, you could press this display backup and it would substitute the engine parameters to the left hand side here. I don't know, and it moves the inset over here, so you could still get some navigation displayed here, which is pretty cool, and that is basically just a redundancy system to ensure that if one of the screens was to fail, that would allow you to continue flying your trip. Okay, so let's fire this thing up. As I do, I am not going to follow a flight plan. But before I do that, actually, I'm not going to follow a flight plan. That is not what I meant to say. What I meant to say was I'm not going to be following the checklist. I'm going to show you the flight plan now and show you how that works in just a second. Okay, so we're ready to prepare our flight, and we're going to be looking at a flight plan. To give you an idea what this is going to look like, I'm just going to pull the flight plan in here, and this is from the documentation. You can see here we've got this takeoff from a runway over here. No matter which way you go, you actually have to loop back around and join this and head towards this VOR, and then turn to the, what is it, southwest kind of direction. Follow this all the way down and basically come in and do an ILS approach. And these are the waypoints here. So we're going to be setting all those up in the FMS here and following this flight plan. So I'm just going to get these waypoints up so I can remember what this looks like. And that's just to give you an idea of how to actually program this thing. So a few pointers to note here. Just let me make sure that this view's okay. Yep. Okay. First thing we want to do is click a flight plan. That brings up this box, and this all comes with part of the custom programming for this Garmin system here that they've created based on the Cirrus Perspective. So we've got that. So once we've done that, you just click your button in the middle here, and you'll see that highlights the en route point. Then you have two little arrows, two bracket control cursors here. You'll see that they change. We just want to get this small one and click down, and that pops up this waypoint information. So the first waypoint that we need to put in here is TRM. Now to do this, we just use the keypad, TRM. Once we've done that, this is actually a VOR, so we're going to hit VOR, and it changes the icon here. If you did NDB, you can see that changes. If you put in a fix, you'll see this little icon here changes. If there's an airport, it shows the airport icon. I'm not really sure what it does other than that. Maybe it does have some other feature, but it is a VORTAC. And once we've done that, we actually hit this enter button back on the keypad here. From there, we should be able to, we put in an altitude, which is going to be 2700. And you can see there, it's putting in the navigation. Now, if you're not really sure what to do, you read this little bit of information here. It says enter the waypoint attitude with keypad, press enter. So it's actually telling us what to do there. So we can do that. We've done that. Press enter. And that is our waypoint. Done. We'd move on to the next waypoint, which is Warn. I believe that is called. So we could say Warn. W-A. Oh no, I haven't done this properly. Okay, so we're going to hit the, you can see this is highlighted. We use this little cursor, get this window back up, the waypoint information, and then type in our waypoint. Warn. And an E. So we've got that, we hit enter. Oops, it's actually a fix. So that's what we want there. Then we hit enter. And now we can put in our next altitude restriction, so 12,500. You can see that's coming up here, and enter again. And we continue doing that through all the different waypoints, putting in whether it's a fix, an NDB, a VOR, or an airport, and that will basically create a full flight plan. You can also use these sort of buttons here, a little like SD slots. One is load and one is save, I think. So we're going to click this one, and this says some flight plans here. We're going to open this, and it's got my full flight plan here already done, so I don't need to do that again, which is really cool. So once we've done that, you can see how we would do that. You just go through and do all those. You can save that flight plan and then just load it, or create it in some other application, which I haven't actually tried, but I believe that you could save it as an X-plane format, you could then load it in to save yourself some time. Okay, so once we've got our flight plan in here, where am I? We've got some checklists and stuff. Oh, we've got our airport diagrams and stuff like that that we could also do, but that is not what I wanted. We want our flight plan and don't have our actual waypoint active right now. That is our first waypoint active, and we should see that on our thing here. So flight plan, got our destination. TRM is our next waypoint. Okay, we're good. I thought it would show up somewhere else. Maybe it's in here. So I should point out that we also need to have, we've got this on FMS. We also want to go back on here and set our CDI here to GPS. And you can see here, then that will activate our next waypoint, give us a distance and an estimated time for that. So that is basically all we need to do for that part of the flight planning, and that is all done. So once you've done that, don't hit the initial init. It will reset everything here. It'll just blank everything you've already done, and that'll be that. That's not going to be fun. Just trying to see how I actually clear this again. I think I could just press clear to get that back to, yep, so we can get our full flight plan on here. Okay, we're good. And that's it. We're basically ready to start the aircraft and make our way out to taxi and get onto our first waypoint. So why don't we do that? I'm not going to bother turning the avionics on. I don't know what the rules are for these kind of systems. I'm sure generally you don't have your avionics on when you start the aircraft, but we are going to do that. And for those people who are sensitive about that, I apologize. We've got that. We've got fuel mixture. We've checked everything. Everything's good. Just let's assume that the flight plan has been complete. Not the flight plan. The checklist has been completed. Doors are locked. All that good stuff. And we're ready to start the aircraft. We'll just make sure we're trimmed here. You can see our trim here. That's on takeoff. We're good. Okay, let's hit the key here. It's a very easy aircraft to start, so that's always cool. A standard baro setting. We've got our brakes on here, so this is our brake switch. That's pretty cool. We should probably check our ADAS. I might just check that and be right back. Okay, so I did actually have the ADAS set up in my COM2 here. I forgot all about that actually. So if we turn on our COM2 down here, we can actually listen to that.
Palm Springs INTL information Quebec. 2000 Zulu weather. Sky clear, visibility 10. Temperature 23, dew point 11. Wind 320 at 9, altimeter 2989. Arriving and departing runways 31 left, 31 right. Advise on initial contact you have Quebec.
Okay, so it's 2989. Let's change that now to 2989. I believe it's one of these. It's the bigger one. 2989. And we're good to go. Okay, so let's go to strobe. Let's turn our pitot heat on. We're not going to do any ice protection. I believe some of this stuff works. Some of this fluid, I'll have to check that documentation. Sorry, there is a lot of stuff on this aircraft that I'm not going to be able to cover in this episode. I just want to show you the main features. We've also got the interior lighting for night lighting. If it was dark, maybe we can have a look at that a bit later on. So we're outside here. We're going to be taking off 3-1, which should put us over to this side. So we're all good. So we're going to head over this direction and taxi our way out. So let's make sure everything is working. That elevator's working. All good. We're good to rock and roll. Brakes are on. Let's turn them off. And make our way to 3-1. I don't really know my way around this airport. Okay, so we're at runway 31 left. I turned around and headed back to the correct location. We're here. We would normally do our run-ups. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to assume that's already been done. The aircraft is safe. Brand new aircraft, so it's safe. It's been tested by our chief pilot today. One of the things we want to do now is turn our strobe lights on and our landing lights. So we're ready to go. We'll jump back outside here and have a little look. You can see what this looks like. We've got our landing lights there. Strobe lights. And we'll taxi out onto the runway once we've got our runway clearance. We'll line ourselves up on the runway here. Now, this has always been a question for real pilots that I've wanted to ask. I don't know if you would normally take off from this point, this far back, where you've got the arrows. It's kind of a bit strange to me. I don't know whether you could or whether you'd need to be further up the runway over here. But probably one thing we want to do before we get underway is make sure our flaps are in the takeoff position here. Mixture's full rich. We're ready to take off. We've got plenty of fuel. We're ready to rock and roll, and we're gonna get ready to take off. Okay, so let's give it a go. Trying to keep it on the center line here. We really only need to be about this takeoff speed. We're already above the indicator there, which is rotate, so we can take off there. We'll follow this runway heading here for a little bit. There's probably a few things there I could have done, which was set the heading to align with the runway. That should have probably been done already. Do that now. We really want to try and stay on track with the runway. Obviously, if there's multiple runways, we don't want to be running into anyone else. I'm gonna put the flaps up. Try and get this straight. And we'll get a little climb out speed going. You can see here we're heading in the opposite direction. We also want to have our flight director on. A little bit rusty behind the controls, but we're good. Great scenery out here. Look at this. It's cool. I'm loving it. Follow this flight director out a little bit. I'm just going to manually fly this to 2,700 feet, but we would normally set our altitude to 2,700 on the FMS. That was something else I didn't do. Let's make our way back around. Keep climbing out to about 2,700, so I might actually start to try to set that now. I can set that here with this knob, put that up to 2,700. There we go, almost there. So we could do that. 2700. We can set our flight director. Put that on. There, we've got our nav. I'm just trimming that so it's disabled the autopilot. We'll come back around. So let's fly in behind, around the outside of the airport here. We probably really only want to get to 2700 here. But previous flights I've done, this mountain here is quite high, so it kind of makes me a bit nervous. Probably turning him way too soon, really. You wouldn't really want to cross that airport there. At least I don't think you would. For those who don't know, I'm not a real pilot. If you haven't worked that out with all my accurate instruction here. Let's just get this back underway here. We can hit our altitude's fine and autopilot is on. So let's see what this does here. It's descending us down to 2700. Pretty aggressively, I might add. You can see here it's going to level us out. Basically from here on we're good. So we're going to do the rest of this trip and we'll come back when we're doing our approach into our destination airport at Montgomery Field. You can also see here now, we've got some cloud cover, but we're flying IFR, of course. But we're getting our cabin altitude warning here. So that's not fun. And if we continue to do this, we would suffer from hypoxia and become very silly and not really have a care in the world and just sit here and allow ourselves to die very slowly. What we can do here though is go to the oxygen system here. We can see it says O2 is required. We can turn that on and it's got an indicator of the capacity, and but I might just turn that off and see if we do suffer hypoxia and see what actually happens. We'll continue our flight, and should I suffer from hypoxia, I will endeavor to show you what is actually going to happen. Okay, so I probably should have started descending already. I'm a little bit behind the 8-ball here, but we want to start making our way down to 4,200 feet. Let's bring this altitude down. I'm going to start slowing our aircraft down here. And we'll set our altitude to 4,200. We might actually set our vertical speed to go down. We'll start making our way down. And I'll continue to move this altitude selector down to 4,500 while we do that. I'm not descending very fast at the moment. So we'll need to get that happening, or then we'll need to monitor our airspeed. Let's if we put this back to idle. V speed down. So you can see up here we've got about 1700 feet a minute that we're going to be descending. We really need to be down to 4,200. Probably should change that a little bit more. Make our way down. So we've hit our waypoint. And since we're on our way down, we really should have our landing lights back on. What I'm going to do now is give us back our some acceleration, but not too much. I'm starting to level off. Hit our approach and change this to nav 1. You can see here's our glide slope here. So I want to get our airspeed down. You can see we've captured the glide slope now. We just want to get this down into this white band. Do that now. That's because I don't want to overspeed the flaps. I think we're okay. Flaps down. That should slow us down quite a bit. You can see it's following the glide slope quite nicely. No bobbing, nothing strange going on there. It's looking good. Lined up perfectly with the runway. Following that, no problems at all. Let's go to full flaps. Okay, so we've disconnected the autopilot. Gonna manually fly it in. Concentrating. Put a bit lower than the glide slope there. Twitchy on the yoke. Not sure what the landing speed's supposed to be, but maybe this is a little bit slow. We've got great weather, so we can fly this in manually. above the glide slope now, so. I feel like we're in a bit of a crosswind. I don't know if we are or not, but a little bit low, but I think we're good. Floating a little bit. A little bit hard. But we're on the ground. That's a good start. Good start. We're done relatively okay. Be nice if there was some more authentic sounds, but they're the default X-plane sounds. So there we have it. There's the vFlyteAir SR20 Cirrus aircraft. So I'll leave it right there. Looking good. I like this aircraft. The more I fly it, the more I like it. It does fly really, really nice. I think it's going to be a nice aircraft as they fix some minor little issues, but generally it is really, really solid for a first release, and quite a lot of work to go into that avionics system that they've put together there. It's a great little aircraft. I actually like it. I think you probably will too if you like GA aircraft and are interested in something like this particular one. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks again to the guys at vFlyteAir. Don't forget to have a look in the comment section below for a link to the vFlyteAir website, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.